Welcome back to another episode on the Badass 2000. We're back from our road trip to turn 14, which means it's time to track prep this thing.
First task on today's list is going to be swapping out our AP1 ECU that we've been running over to our AP2 unit. And if you recall in a previous episode, we tried to actually use this ECU, but the immobilizer was the hiccup in all of this. So originally we thought we would take the immobilizer ring, which is on our AP2 column, and just swap this over. So I had taken this off, put it into here, and it still did not work. And that's because the key is the key to this whole thing. It has its own chip in it, which has to match the ECU, which is what we've figured out. So what we're gonna do is, thankfully we have the whole column. We're gonna swap this whole thing over into the car, which isn't too bad a job. Like originally I was worried it was gonna be a lot of work, but really we don't have to go into the engine bay. This disconnects, the shaft disconnects right underneath here. And this is only 4 bolts and just kind of like messing around with wires and whatnot. So it shouldn't be too big a job, but once we do swap this over, our whole AP2 system should theoretically work, and we'll have that proper rev limit, which is really what we're after. That was not even that difficult, I gotta say. It's the first time it's a pleasure working on this car because something came out pretty easily. But so yeah, here is our AP1 steering column. Here's our AP2. I think they are identical. So I'm just going to swap a couple things over that we need to and bolt this guy in. I'm not really sure how to go about this because we now have our U-joint disconnected from the lower steering column. And what I did is, before I took the other one off, I marked it right in this area, thinking that if I mark it in the same area like that, theoretically I should be able to slide it back in the way that this one came out. So yeah. If you guys have any tips or pointers how to get that aligned before and after, definitely post in the comments.
While Pete works in the interior, I figured I would empty the catch cans and hook up the lines. And this can was full to the brim. I just took it out and spilled it on the floor because I didn't realize how full it really was, but it was literally full to the brim. Just taking out the other one now, which I checked the dipstick on, and I'm not seeing, maybe it's just a drop on the end of the dipstick here, but I'm gonna empty it out anyway just because now's the time to do it. So had we been smart enough to get the petcock drain that attaches to the bottom of the can, I could just like open a valve and drain it, but instead we got these 4 bolts on top here. This oily water in here is from the other can. Oh, look at that, there was some in there. Very watery actually. Not so much oil as
condensation?
Vapor
Weird.
condensation,
yeah.
But
well, it's doing its job. That's a good thing.
It's catching things as a catch can should. So hook those hoses back up. We'll cut back to PT doing more stuff in the interior.
So I figured the one thing that we would keep off of the AP2 for the interior would be replacing kind of the gauge cluster trim with all the buttons and whatnot. It's black, it's in much better shape. And I think this is an area that you're constantly focusing on when you're driving. So
you shouldn't be, Pete. You should be looking at the windshield.
Well, you should, but yeah, when you're looking down, this is what you see. And I think this is one of the standout pieces.
Yeah, I agree.
That really makes this car look better. So we're gonna change out the silver for the black. It's time to say goodbye to our old AP1 key. We're going to the new AP2 ones.
So fancy.
I know, and I was wondering, can Can we program the key fob to work with this chassis?
I bet if we took it to the dealership, they could.
Maybe.
Yeah, good
Which
question.
would be nice to have the unlock and lock and the trunk unlock on there, because
Yeah.
we never got that originally with the AP1.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, let's see what we got. Oh, the light
Oh,
turns
the green
off.
light's gone.
I mean,
It's a good sign.
that's a very good sign. I don't want to run this for too long because it'll smoke us out in here, but let's see what happens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there it goes.
Total victory.
That is victory. So there you have it, conclusive evidence that if you swap over the column and the key, well, and your AP2 ECU, you will get your AP2 engine and everything working together.
We are bidding farewell to our Mishimoto oil cooler, which we installed back in the S2000 days. Generally speaking, when you blow up a motor, it's a good idea to replace your oil cooler because it can get filled up with metal debris, like bearing material, for example, which we found plenty of in the oil pan. It's really tough to clean these out properly, and they're relatively inexpensive, so you could try to wash it out and hope for the best, but not advisable in our opinion. Better to just replace it, and we've chosen to replace it with a CSF Universal Dual Pass Racing. This is their Universal Racing oil cooler. It's comparable in size. It should offer plenty of cooling for our S2000's motor. I really like the flush triangular mount system that they've used on the top here. It gives you, and the bottom too, it gives you a lot of options for mounting it up, which obviously you want in a universal cooler. It's also extremely rugged. This thing is very well built. It uses their bar and plate design, as you can see, and it uses their Aeroflow technology in the bar, which is designed to maximize flow and thus cooling efficiency out of the core. Pete has now taken on the task of mounting this up because it's going to be a little bit different to mount up than the old one, so let's see how this goes.
First thing I had to do was install these Vibrant M22 by 1.5 adapters. That's because CSF doesn't include them because people might want to run different sized fittings. So the challenge with this obviously is the old Mishimoto one had the fittings up top. This one has them on the side. So thankfully all I really had to do was shorten one of the lines. So I just cut it down a little bit. And mounting this, because CSF has all these options for mounting, I figured I would put it there. I use the existing brackets on the one side, and then the other side, as you'll see when the fittings come in here, it's just so sturdy that it doesn't need to really have a mount on that side, but that's kind of how it's gonna look. This is deja vu all over again, like you said, back in the S2000 when I had to install this oil cooler the first time. So this time around, it's pretty much the exact same.
Yeah, and we should mention we did wash these lines out very thoroughly.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So,
Good
and
catch. We would have been chirped for that.
Yeah, we would have got chirped hard, and they're large enough in ID that you can run a really good stream of water and cleaner through them, and we didn't see any debris come out at all. So
no, exactly. Like I think the lines are one thing. The oil cooler has so much
small passages,
small little places that oil or shavings can get caught, which is really what you don't want to get into.
Yeah.
So,
it's one of those comes free and gets into your pickup.
Exactly. Yep.
know.
And then you're in big trouble.
Things can go badly.
Of course, my line
Speaking
here.
of things going badly, Peter, you're struggling a little here with these lines. The one downside to a braided stainless steel line like this is they're not the most flexible, are they?
It's not even that. They just kind of like get caught up on everything.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted that guy to go down, and instead.
They are high friction lines.
Yes, very high friction. I've got the fittings on the one side of the oil cooler here, and now I'm just reusing the existing Mishimoto brackets on the other side. And there is a little bit of finesse that's needed here to make it all fit up.
Well, where's Moose in that case?
Well, I don't know if Moose could handle
He's
this.
the king of finesse. What do you mean?
Yeah. You would probably just smash this in somehow.
You could just glue it on there.
You weren't kidding though, DP. This thing's got some weight to it.
Oh yeah, it's got some girthiness.
Certainly a strong
It is
oil cooler. It feels like if you get into an accident with this bad boy, it's not gonna puncture or break very easily. there you go. I mean, it is on there nice. This side obviously didn't need any brackets. The hoses themselves are so sturdy because of the way they're run. They're like in between the rad and the chassis. So they're in there good. I'm just gonna put a zip tie onto there, but would you look at that? That wasn't difficult at all. And I think we've got ourselves an oil cooler. So, I don't know if we should do this, but there was a lot of bugs that managed to go along for the ride from our trip to Turn 14. Should we clean this condenser? Like, look at all this, DP.
Oh, God, it is
Do you even
disgusting.
clean that? Do people clean that stuff? Or?
No, it just
Disintegrates. Nature will do its thing. All right, so let's get the bumper back on and then we can get the splitter going.
Actually, splitter first, PT. Splitter first.
Oh, I don't remember which way it goes.
Those of you who are new to the channel, you might not recognize our carbon fiber front splitter, which I built with Kevin Stittle from C3 Composites. It's a high density foam core wrapped in multiple layers of carbon fiber, lovingly built to the shape of the S2000's underside and front bumper. It's mounted up with, you can see there's L brackets here that go to the core. There's a series of bolts that go through this aluminum bar underneath here, another bracket over there, and then some bolts to the back side of the splitter at the back of the engine area. Looking good, PT.
I know, my goodness.
Like a race car
It
again,
does feel
huh?
forever like these things have been on.
Yeah.
The final touch is these side spats for all the aero.
That's right.
And you put the seats in, right, DP?
I did. That's the best job in the world, Pete.
Of course it is.
I love doing those seats.
Everybody loves doing seats.
So much fun in this car.
Seats in an S2000 are literally, I think, probably the top complained about item on the internet. So
It's up there.
it certainly is.
This is a miserable job, but I'll give you a sneak peek. Well, I'll give you a proper peek, actually. Let's have a peek at the Cata harnesses are in there now.
Oh yeah.
Look at that. Both the Recaros are in there. We are ready to go rip some tech, buddy.
Yes. Man, oh man, this thing looks good on the ground.
It does look good.
So aggressive with that front splitter.
Yep.
So what else is left here, DP?
Well, speaking of aggressive, I'm going aggressive on the oil choice this time, PT. I'm going with Valvoline's VR1 high zinc synthetic racing oil. High zinc is, well, zinc is great for protecting your bearings, but it's not great for your catalytic converter. So on a street car with a cat, it's probably not what you want to use. But since we're running catless, we're running wild and free here, might as well get the benefits of some zinc. I think we're officially ready to go to the racetrack, which means this episode's a wrap, PT. We are done. S2000's ready for more track battles, which we will have for you guys very soon. Give us a thumbs up if you're stoked to see this thing back at the track, ripping tech, like the good old days at Speed Academy. We're young again, PT. We're young again.
If we were really smart, we would have ordered petcocks from Radium,
Yes.
then done this.
Yes.
But we're not.
Oh, that's true. We could have done that and then installed those now.
That's correct.
Well, that would have required foreplanning or forethought. We're not always...